ESPN was doing something this week with a stardom bench 'em cut 'em, and that was Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Justin Fields, which we're not going to talk about. I wanted to do the wide receiver version of that, and I titled it MFK because it really is just marry, fuck, kill. But we can do start, sit, bench. Start, bench, cut for three of the greatest wide receivers of all time. I have struggled with this all day today. Our options are Calvin Johnson, Jerry Rice, and Randy Moss. And I want the biggest Calvin Johnson fan that I'm aware of to start this segment. So Craig, lead us off. Who you starting, who you benching, who you cutting?
Well, and you knew I had to support my man. Calvin Johnson was my favorite wide receiver to watch, even still to this day. And Tyreek Hill's on the team and stuff like that. Like, I have a lot of fun memories of some cool, different guys over the last 25 years in my fandom, right? But something captured like the childhood glory of my mixture of like collecting cards and toys, because his nickname being Megatron, like a transformer, and all these things coming together. And then his larger than life on-field performance. He really was best in the league multiple years in a row, but not just at the metrics of like the yards and the touchdowns. He was getting that, but he was like physically dominant in a way that guys couldn't handle. Now, he didn't play as long as Rice or Moss, but he's still my number one, because if we're playing MFK or start, bench, cut, it still means I need someone to go into a game right now. And if I needed someone to go into a game and make the difference for one game, it's Calvin Johnson for me. So he's my Mary, he's my start. I'm benching Jerry. Jerry, he's a big deal.
Mike's got feelings. Mike's
going to come at you now, because through the lens of what he did last time, talking shit about the 27-year-olds is old, he is now going to probably create a narrative of how he likes old school and it's better and all that shit. And he's going to be wrong. I'm just going to tell you that, because Jerry, you sit him down. And then I guess I said I gotta let Randy go. And I think while Randy didn't have, I don't think a ring, neither did Calvin, but I don't think Calvin was. I'm biased. There's one, and then two, that physical kind of dominance. I think Randy was more known for just getting the ball wherever, everywhere, every how, set records and all that, but couldn't get through that last hurdle. So for me, it's Calvin starting, Jerry Rice benched, Randy Moss cut. I think.
Mike Thomas, you have very strong feelings about Jerry Rice, apparently, and I'm excited to hear about them.
I feel like it doesn't matter the era that Jerry Rice played in. He was a phenomenal talent, and how do you not marry that career? If we're looking back, all of them were great, all of them were fantastic. How do you not marry the Jerry Rice career and what he did over an extended period of time? Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss are two of the all-time best. Can't take anything away from that. They were monsters. I don't know who I would want to have for if we're talking about the fuck element of it, of having him into one particular game.
Who do you want to be into?
We are, Mike.
Who do you want?
One of these guys you want to fuck? That's what we wanted to know. Which one of these guys?
Who is the most
kissable
to you?
I think it's Calvin Johnson all day. Because I think he could he would be able to more likely dominate a game than Randy Moss, even though Randy Moss did it many times. So sorry, Randy, you got to go.
Interesting. You guys both cutting Randy. Mike, you're starting Jerry. I am like I said, I have been grappling with this all day, and I am starting or marrying Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
I am benching Randy Moss, and I am cutting Jerry Rice for the sole purpose that Jerry Rice, in my mind, is Wilt Chamberlain-esque. One of the greatest to ever play the game, is always going to be talked about as an all-time great. but he was beating corners that were running 4.9 40s. There is not a fleet of foot linebacker in sight. Safeties weren't like double cover. Like the game was so much more simple. And I just don't think if you could take all of these guys and put them in the game right now in their prime, I personally believe that Jerry Rice would be the worst. And Calvin Johnson would be better than he was 10 years ago when he played. That is my thought process. I also never got to see Jerry Rice play, so the bias there may be.
We saw a lot, Mike, right? We didn't see the earliest, but we saw a lot of the, depending on when you started watching. I started watching in the late 80s, early 90s because my dad would take me to events and stuff. It was probably the same for you. He was very important. He was the guy. But for me, his game never appealed to the things that drew me in sport, like Calvin did, or Shaquille O'Neal in basketball, or Peyton Manning. Like different people drew me because, in my opinion, it was just a talent I hadn't seen before kind of thing. That's why I like Luka Doncic, Pat Mahomes become like individuals I end up falling in love with watching, because it's like, oh, they play the game differently. So I think you said that really well, Pat.
He played until 2004.
Yeah, but he's on the Raiders and really kind of insignificant.
I saw him in a Raiders jersey and I was like, yeah, that feels weird.
But to me,
like
here's
that.
I want to ask you guys, it's a tangent, but relevant, because Mike mentioned basically legacy was why he would marry him, right? The body of work, right? But like guys like Jerry that played real long, or I can't say Brady because he ended up winning playing long.
So
we have
sense.
plenty, right? Which makes no sense. But even Jordan, right? Jordan on the Wizards, which was good for like an old guy, but not good. Like these guys sometimes stay too long, and to me, it diminishes the forever conversation, and it makes me feel like Mike does not feel that way. Is that true? Or you're just like, no, I take only because if they played 20 seasons and like 4.5 were shit, a 16.5-year career that was epic would have been good by any standards, right? I get that part, but I can't get over the 4 that weren't good. How do you reconcile that?
It depends on how bad those last couple of years are. The last couple of years of Marino's career didn't derail his legacy, and those weren't very good. No. Most people have down years at the end of their career. Very few go out on top or continue to perform at a super high level until they step away. Very few.
In my memory, Calvin went out still crushing.
But he also left early. He left.
I know, but I oddly respect the guys that do that. That's my weirdness of it.
Sure,
it's
Barry
the Barry
Sanders gets respect.
Of it. Yep. This is just and that's honestly what it is like you will never know what, like, Calvin traded that legacy and that like those iconic moments for length of time where like he could probably, as of like 2 or 3 years ago, have still been on a team just ring chasing.
I know, but I love his like business and media play that he's doing now. He's doing really well.
I think he made the right decision.
Yeah, he's one of the receivers that got that Mondo 9 figures.
Well, and that's why I also put him as my start, because there's two plays in his entire career, and like I didn't watch all of the Megatron because like who the fuck watches the Lions? Like, let's be honest. Like who's like, yeah, Lions game. Like, okay, it's Thanksgiving, I will watch the Lions because this is on the television. But 2 moments that stick out to me readily in his career, and one of them is the against the Colts when there was literally 2 corners standing on either side of him, because I have never, ever, ever seen. Obviously, you shade a safety over the top and like different things like that happen, but I had never seen two men assigned to this man before the ball was snapped. They were looking at him in his direction, and like that says different to me. And then the catch in the Bengals, which is something I'm going to put, I think, in the thumbnail for this, is his catch over 3 people, and he is above all of them in the air. And I've never seen. Well, first, it's terrible throw by Matthew Stafford. Don't throw into triple coverage.
The trust, though. But think about it. Wait a minute.
But that's the
like
thing, is he trusted him to come
had
down.
Trust. Your dude Eli threw with trust. So you got to respect that, because when you have the belief, as the QB does, in some of these guys, And you made a great point there because Calvin had that, but obviously so did Tyree and so did some of the other guys. There's just certain personality types. I'm not putting Tyree in this conversation. I'm saying Calvin had that and all these other things. You know what I mean? Like it's a cumulative.
Yeah, and like I couldn't put, because Randy obviously has a shit ton of awards, like broke some of Jerry's records, like all these guys can be in the conversation for starters. That's why I picked these three. But when you're famous for mossing people, and Calvin Johnson did it better than you because he was bigger than you and he was stronger than you, like
he was, I think, an inch and a half taller or something, and definitely jacked up
huge.
Like a robot. He would look like the fucking Fox. Remember when they leaned in on the robot, and it was like they had him right there, and then they fashioned the robot after him.
They were like, this guy, he's our fucking dude. But yeah, so those moments just stick out very prevalently in my mind, and that's why I start him. Again, didn't really get to watch Jerry Rice play.
Mike's an old head, though. We know that about him. He's an old head. He's got that.
Unless it's a running back, and then he's not. He wants. If he could draft from high school for running backs, he would.
Right.
He would be like, I want my Steelers running back to be. He's 17.
All about getting. I want no tread on them tires.
But yeah,
they need to shrink the players so they can get back to having a running game for an extended period of time.
They really do. Honestly, like it's getting weird. Like what did one of the offensive linemen, I feel like in the draft this year ran like a sub 540. And I was like,
but running backs are still having very strong statistics. The market's not there, but there's still guys running for 1,500, 1,600. Yeah. We're just not seeing.
They burn bright.
They do, but we're not seeing 2K like we were because they fashioned the rules to pass. That's more of it. It's not that the guys are worse.
It's definitely a part of it. And like Jerry Rice is part of that. Jerry Rice helped transition this league from a league that was like where Joe Namath was considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and dude's got like a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
And I think his completion percentage was also like kind of like what yours.
It's like 47%. It's fucking terrible. It's like
if you could throw some quick outs, you'd beat him. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So like Jerry Rice is definitely credited to that. I just like taking all of these guys in this moment in their prime and trying to put them in a game. I think Calvin Johnson just. Frame-wise, ability, I think he's just better than all these guys, and that's not to say that these guys aren't fucking amazing, because
Pat thinks Jerry Rice sucks. That's the title of the clip.
I think Jerry Rice is a piece of shit.
Personal attacks? What?
So now we get the Eagles fans hating on us, and the 49ers.
And the Raiders, apparently. Apparently he was also there, which the
Raiders
wasn't good there, because the Raiders have never been good.
The Raiders deserve the negativity. I don't think they're going to do very well this year. I don't think they're going to do very well, even though they got some names on the roster.
You don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is gonna do well for them, and Josh McDaniels is going to be a good head coach?